Good evening, everyone. Welcome to yet another insightful episode of CIO Gurukul, presented by CIO&Leader and Commvault. Today's focus is on securing your data effectively in the data era. My name is Singh, and I'll be moderating today's discussion. So, a very warm welcome to all of you who have joined today once again. Uh, in today's interconnected world where data breaches and cyber threats are increasingly common, safeguarding sensitive information is paramount for enterprises. Effective data protection strategies require a blend of policies, procedures, and technologies to prevent unauthorized access, loss, or, of course, any kind of data corruption. For any organization, it's extremely critical to review and update these strategies at regular intervals to keep pace with evolving threats. However, as the digital landscape evolving in a massive way, things are getting more and more tricky for organizations. Well, in today's session, we'll explore the latest trends, best practices, and innovative solutions for data strategy. It's crucial to recognize the high stakes involved with data breaches not only lead to financial losses but also tarnish reputation, erode customer trust, and invite legal repercussions. It's critical to stay ahead of the curve and arming ourselves with knowledge and tools to protect the enterprise data, which is extremely critical. Well, just to remind you once again, whether you are here to enhance your organization's cybersecurity posture or safeguard your personal information, we encourage your active engagement throughout this session. You can share your questions and share insights through the Q&A window. We'll have a dedicated Q&A session towards the end of the presentations. To kickstart our discussion, I am pleased to introduce our first speaker for the day, Tanmay Kundu, Regional CISO at Omnicom Media Group, Omnicom Group. Tanmay brings nearly 2 decades of experience in information security management, quality management, Six Sigma, and various international standards. He holds certifications including CISSP, CISM, CEH, and is a certified Six Sigma belt and green belt professional. A very warm welcome to you, Tanmay, and thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Jatin. Thanks for having me here. It's a pleasure to be a part of this community. Thank you.
Thank you. We hope our audience would find today's conversation meaningful. So Tanmay, I would like to start the discussion with one of the pertinent issues that most IT professionals and security professionals are facing. So if you could just throw light on some of the primary challenges that organizations face in implementing and maintaining effective data protection strategy, especially given the rapidly evolving threat landscape, and how to address those challenges.
Okay, so talking about the data protection issues in today's world, right? So the time is changing rapidly. What is new today is obsolete tomorrow, right? And with the ever increasing data landscape, threat landscape, it is primarily for an organization to have proper insight about the organization, what kind of data they are processing, what kind of data that they are creating, right? So there are a couple of pressing issues that every organization faces. So the first is cybersecurity threats, right? So cybersecurity is everywhere. You go to banking, you go to your local sabziwala, you have a QR code and so on and so forth. So that is the degree to which the technology has become a part of our daily life. So cybersecurity becomes a threat, right? If increasing malware attacks, increasing ransomware, and so on and so forth. So cybersecurity threat is something that the company has to really look forward to. They need to be proactive in understanding what are the new threats which are coming up, how are the existing threats are being taken care of, and so on and so forth, right? Second is about data breaches. One of the pain for every organization, especially if you talk about banking, especially if you talk about financial services, right? So these data, which is crucial, so it is new gold. everybody knows, right? So the data breaches results in a significant loss. So the companies needs to have a robust infrastructure in order to first identify what kind of data they handle, they create, they process, and have a very robust infrastructure in order to make sure that those data are being kept secure in terms of access, in terms of communication, in terms of whether they are stored, how they are stored, and so on and so forth. Another thing that is creating much of a fuss is about the compliance requirements, right? You know GDPR is there. You know the India has come up with their DPDPA, right? Similarly, California has got their own. So privacy is taking precedence, right? So earlier it was more about security, like confidentiality, integrity, availability, but privacy is now the fourth leg of the information security, right? So the companies is also need to ensure that they understand the privacy requirements, the complexity behind the privacy requirements, right? And then they need to ensure that they have the proper infrastructure, resources, skill set, processes, checks and balances in points, so that they do not do something, or they do not land into a situation wherein the privacy becomes a concern, right? So that is one of the things. Fourth thing I'll talk about, one of the most critical, is insider threat, right? We all know that people are the weakest link. No matter how much security you put in place, if your people are compromised, everything is compromised, right? So people awareness is the key. You need to ensure that your people stays aware. So you need to have your regular trainings, awareness, quizzes, and so on and so forth. You need to have random checks on the people. You can have security as one of the key responsibility area in person's day-to-day activity, and so on and so forth, right? And last thing, I mean, the list can goes on and on, but in the lieu of time, I will touch base on the last two things: the cloud security, because everybody is going on the cloud, especially the landscape has changed drastically after COVID, right? So people earlier having on-prem, now all gone to the cloud, so that they have the ease of access. They can avoid disruptions due to their local service setups, local servers, and so on and so forth. So when you go to cloud, the cloud related risk shall be adequately assessed and shall be adequately addressed with the cloud service providers, your SLAs, your SLOs, and so on and so forth. The last thing is third party risk. Again, we are using vendors extensively, right? And when we put something outside our boundary, we are opening up Pandora box, because you don't know what are the vendors infrastructure, how they are handling your data, and so on and so forth. So whenever you use vendor, make sure you have a proper vendor risk assessment in place. You evaluate the vendor, you know that where they are leading, where they're lagging, and you have the appropriate controls in place. So these are few of the things that the companies should do in order to understand that these kind of issues are they can avoid as much as possible. I would not say 100%, that is never the case, but yes, it's all about a learning curve.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, there is no foolproof security which one can be completely convinced of. And who would know it better than leaders like you and our participants? But of course, these are some of the measures which organizations should look into to strengthen
Indeed.
their security.
Indeed.
The next part, Tanmay, while of course we as a security leaders, you know, these are some best practices which you have to adopt, but there are always some budgetary constraints for organizations. So how do you prioritize security investments and initiatives within your organization? And what are your recommendations to ensure optimal protection of sensitive data while managing budgetary constraints as well?
I think this is one of the questions that most of our audiences who are present here must be facing into their day-to-day lives, because whenever you walk up to your CXOs, especially the CFOs, and asking for $1 million of budget for a security kind of thing, and they're like, why do you need it, right? We are not something doing that big, and so on and so forth. So that is a very tricky question, right? So So a couple of things that I personally do, right? So the first thing needs to be, the approach should be risk-based. You need to understand the risk landscape of your business, right? You need to have a proper risk assessment in place. You need to, you should be able to showcase that this is what we do. These are the risks to our business, right? These are the controls that we already have. This is how the landscape gonna change in coming years. So you have to have the strategy based on risk, right? And then with that, you need to ask your business or your CFOs that, look, I need this much of money, right, for this thing. And at the same time, the crucial part is that cost benefit analysis, right? I know this is easier said than done, because when it comes to information security, if you are taking $1 million as an budget, and it's very difficult to tell them that, boss, you're gonna get a revenue of $200 million. It's very difficult, right? So over here, we need to understand that what is the impact, right? So one of the example is GDPR, right? So if you are non-compliant with the privacy requirements, you are supporting European clients, you get into a data breach, right? Now, so suddenly you are into a place wherein your stake is like 20 million euros for 40 million euros, right? That's a very high stake, as compared to you need to have just like couple of thousands of euros to have a countermeasure in place, right? So these kind of things, the security professionals have to start looking through. Don't look into from the window only from the infosec. Try to align the security with the business. Once you are able to speak into the business language, that this is what we're gonna achieve, or this is what we're gonna save in lieu of what we are investing, then you have the businesses ears listening to you. So that is one of the things. Second is data classification. This is the key issue that I face in almost every organization. People build up their entire ISMS, but they do not know what data they are preventing, right? So for them, okay, everything is okay. We have an ISO standard, we are done. But when I ask them, do you know what you are securing? What is the value of the data? Where the data is kept? They do not have any clue. And this is one of the biggest challenge and the irony that we face into today's digital market. So data classification is the key. You need to understand what is the criticality of your data. Not every piece of data is important, right? Something is public, something is confidential, something is sensitive, right? You're working with clients wherein you are having their clients' PII data. That's sensitive. You cannot just throw it away like that, right? So you have a different set of controls for that, as compared to something that you are readily publishing on your websites, right? So you need not to have the same set of controls or the same set of budget for everything. So the budget needs to be allocated based on the importance of the data, right? A data which comes with a impact of $100 million needs to be adequately protected, right, as compared to a data which is publicly available. Second thing. So third thing, security controls. What kind of controls do you have, right? For sensitive data, you will have more robust control. For less sensitive data, you will have lesser controls. For clients who are big in nature, who have got more information security kind of a requirement, your budget would differ, and so on and so forth. So again, everything comes back to a very critical stage, which is called the cost and benefit analysis. You have to align your budgetary requirements with what you're gonna give back to the organization, right? So that is one of the things. Last but not the least, technology investments, right? Because you need to have technology. If you need to protect your data leakage, you need to have a DLP. If you want to have protection around spamming or viruses or malwares, you need to have adequate protection. And in today's market, you have got plenty, right? Now the technology requirement is, again, right, if you are just handling a data which is worth $100,000, right? So you would not invest $100,000 to safeguard it, right? You will invest couple of $1,000 as compared to if you are handling a database which is sensitive, which has a impact of a couple of millions of dollars. Then you would not take a chance of investing couple of thousands of dollars, right? Again, the technology investment is a key. You need to understand that which kind of technology you need and how much that technology is going to cost, right? So these are a couple of things that we need to ensure while doing our budgetary requirements.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I think ensuring that for what purpose specific budgets, specific IT budgets you're leveraging and to analyze the correct ROI is extremely important. So, Tanmay, would you be able to share probably some insights or lessons learned from recent security incidents and breaches that have influenced your approach to data protection?
Okay, sorry, you broke a bit in the meanwhile, but what I understood is you wanted to understand about the lessons that we have learned. I mean, I have learned throughout my career through various breaches and all, right? Okay, looking into today's environment, the key is zero trust architecture, right? You cannot have an architecture which is open-ended, right? You cannot say that, okay, if you are a CEO, you have unrestricted access to anything and everything. That does not work, because the higher you move into the hierarchy, the more riskier thing you are doing, because a CEO has got too much of data with himself or herself, right? He or she has got access to anything and everything within the organization. So you need to have a zero trust architecture wherein you implement the controls around strict access, right? You have the controls around least privilege. You give the access based on need to know. And along with that, you need to have a continuous monitoring, right? It's not that you have given an access and then you have just forgotten. You need to ensure that how the data is being accessed, where the data is being shared, right? Whether it is done for a business purpose, or you need to find whether it is an illegitimate access, right? So these things that you need to do. So most of the organization is like, we have a role-based access, we give the access, and then we are done. People leaving of organization, they and their access is retained 6 monthly and even after an year. So that should not be done. So a well-defined, a robust zero trust architecture is the key. Trust me, you can avoid 50% of your issues by zero trust architecture. Second thing comes is your endpoint security, right? Because endpoints are your weakest link, right? People will download anything and everything onto your laptop. They will send out data over their personal emails, Google Drives and Dropboxes and whatnot, right? So you need to be very cautious, right, about how your endpoints are behaving, whether they are properly patched or not, whether the devices are being scanned on a regular interval. You have the proper vulnerability assessment on your infrastructure or your network or onto your endpoints. So this is important. Third thing is, again, I cannot stress on the importance of user awareness and training. That is the key. Anything and everything you do within your organization, respect, whether it's information security, whether it's quality management, whether it's your process improvement, user awareness is the key. If your user is not aware, right? And from my personal point, it's not user awareness, it's called user accountability, right? So you need to have user awareness program built in such a way that the user feels accountable for his or her actions, right? So you need to help user understand that data protection or information security is not organization's responsibility, it's your own responsibility. You need to ensure that you handle the information as per the organization's commitment, as per the organization policies and procedures. So user awareness, user training on a regular basis is very, very important. Last but not the least, data encryption. That is something that you prevent. Even somebody's somebody is able to take the data out of your systems, of your network, still data encryptions give you a safety net that your data would not be readable outside your system or outside your machines, right? So these are the few things that I have learned that we can have into our system in order to ensure that the breaches that we have seen in the past shall not repeat in the future, right? So yeah.
Absolutely, Tanmay. No, I completely agree with you that the user awareness and training are extremely critical to mitigate data security risks. And you need to continue to have a regular auditing and, of course, regular monitoring. Because most of the leaders and CISOs like you, they have shared that this is the one of the biggest challenge that they are facing, how to ensure that the user awareness is very robust within their organization. So I completely agree with you. Tanmay, in the interest of time, one last question I have for you. With so much new age technologies now coming in, like AI, and of course we are living in a now automation driven world. Everything is being automated, and there's a lot of influence of AI and Gen AI capability. So how do you see this technology impacting the data protection capabilities in mitigating cybersecurity risk as well as increasing the risk as well? And what are some of the best strategies to address the new challenges?
So that's a very good question, and especially about AI, right? Whenever a new technology comes into place, it comes of abundance of benefits, but it also comes with abundance of issues as well. And AI is one of the classic example. The biggest challenge with AI is the royalty of the data, right? So the basic question comes that who owns the data? Whether it's the person who has actually created, whether it's the tool itself, the AI tool that is taking data from various sources, collecting into one thing and giving back to you, whether it's the developer who has written the codes and so on and so forth, right? So with AI, the biggest challenge is about the data ownership, right? Because there are data which are proprietary, right? So you cannot use them just like that. The first thing that we need to understand with AI ML is that you need to have a very strict policies in place on how you can use the AI, for what purpose, what kind of data you can feed into AI, what kind of data you can get from the AI, and you need to have a sanity check in place, right? So check and balance is very, very important. You don't want to be into a situation wherein you get into a legal suit because the data that you're publishing or the data that you're using for a client deliverable is something which is proprietary to somebody else, right? So having proper policies in place, proper checks and balances in place, right? So people needs to be made aware over and over again that what are their do's and don'ts about AI technologies and so on and so forth. So that is key from the AI standpoint. Second thing is behavioral analytics, right? You should be able to analyze the behavior, the patterns of your users, what kind of technology they are using, what kind of research they are doing, what kind of data they are looking over and over again onto it, the technologies, what kind of communications are happening, any kind of anomalies, any kind of insider threats, if I talk about, right? So what happens is, I have seen the people, you get something from your boss. Okay, I need to get some kind of PPTs and get it done by the day end. So AI has made the things very simple. People just simply type it onto AI, they will get the PPT and they'll just share. But they do not understand that whatever they get from AI is something that is already in place, right? So we have a long way to go wherein AI can generate content by itself. Currently, what AI is doing is it is looking into the wide ocean of the content, and it is just fetching the content and putting into a format, right? So that content is not actually created fresh, right? That has been taken from somebody. So behavioral analytics is very, very important that you need to talk about. Similarly, you come to predictive analysis, right? how the market is moving, how my business is moving, how people are using these technologies, right? So these kind of things. You can also use AI for predictive analysis. Okay, you can say, okay, that most of my people use AI for this kind of research, whether they're using for research, whether they're using for white papers, whether they're using for service delivery. So this predictive analytics is important, and that also gives you the pointers about whether somebody is taking undue advantage or trying to do some kind of data breaches and so on and so forth, right? And quantum cryptography, I think we are still way ahead of quantum cryptography, but one thing is for sure, the day quantum cryptography or the quantum computing is in place, everything that we are talking today will be baseless, right? So we also need to ensure that because the people that we're getting into our system, especially the new gen alpha, right, they are way ahead of using technologies, right? So we also need to ensure that the people are using technology for the right thing, right, and for the right purpose, right? So these all are the things that we need to ensure when we are using new technology, especially technologies heavily aligned around artificial intelligence, machine learning, quantum mechanics, right? So these are a couple of things.
Well, thank you very much, Tanmay, and thanks for sharing some great insights. It was lovely hosting you. Thank you
Likewise.
for sharing, your experience and giving out details at how to build robust security mechanisms and, of course, effective data strategies within the enterprise. It was lovely hosting you. We look forward to interacting with you again very soon. Thank you very much.
Likewise.
Thank
It
you.
was pleasure speaking to you. Thanks for having me here. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, everyone. And coming back to the next speaker, now I would like to welcome Mr. Arvinderjit Singh Dadhwal, Director of Sales Engineering for Commvault India and SAC. With 25 years of experience in the tech industry, Mr. Dadhwal has been pioneer in managing. He's a passionate with managing a lot of disruptive technologies. Particularly, his interest lies in data management. He has successfully managed sales team, expanded operations across SAC, and fostered key partnership with major Indian GSIs. In his present role, he leads technical sales management, focusing on integrating Commvault's latest technology offerings. Previously, he has held leadership positions previously at companies like Kyndryl, where he led engagements in large and complex resiliency deals across India. Arvinderjit ji, welcome once again to this interesting session, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Jitendra. Thank you very much. So that was a nice interview with Tanmay, and a lot of things what he spoke about in his interview. Some of the things we are also going to discuss about here too. So good thing that some of the things already have been brought up by him. Now, when a customer looks at data protection, right, what he used to look at, what you would look at is, okay, I've got a different applications and databases running in my environment. I could be having multiple clouds, or maybe I've got a hybrid environment. And then again, I'm using different OEMs infra in my data center, and I got a multiple point products for backing up all these different data sets. Because your company doesn't grow at a single point of time. You grow at over a period of time. And when what you started with, what the infra you had, what the solution you bought at that point of time, later on, things kept on getting added to the existing infra. And then you found out, okay, my existing solution is not able to take care of the new infra. I need to look at a new solution. So what happens is you have a sprawl of different data protection software is running in your environment, which could lead to many different problems at least. Now, what we have shifted now is to the resilience piece. It's guaranteed that I will take care of the data which is running in my data center, okay? But the question is, tomorrow with the These are the kind of the cyber attacks which are happening on all the organizations. So it's not a question of if you will get hit with a cyber attack, it's a question of when. I have not seen any customer who is at the highest spectrum of technology advancement. For example, just to give you an example, you would know about EA, right? That's a gaming company, top-notch gaming company. Then you heard of NVIDIA, the guys who are making all those GPUs, and this share prices are skyrocketing like anything. Now, both of these companies are at the top spectrum of technology in their own domain. And these are behemoths. Now, these guys have also been attacked by Lazarus. So can you imagine a company whom we expect to be such a big technology giant powerhouse that they wouldn't have had everything in their data center and they getting attacked, right? So it's a question of if you get attacked, how fast you would be able to come out of the attack. So your resiliency, your business resiliency depends on how fast you're able to recover data, how fast you're able to come out of it, okay? So now how Commvault can help you in making sure that you are more resilient as compared to what you are right now is giving you multitude of features in our product. One is a single pane of glass. What I mean by single pane of glass is you could be running or protecting a data which is running in your data center. It could be running in a cloud. It could be running in a multiple clouds. You could be backing your endpoints. So everything is being done from a single pane of glass. No matter where the data is residing. It could be at the edge. It could be in your data center. It could be in the multi-cloud. Again, spread geographically. Commvault will help you protect all that data once it's identified. Whatever the workload you're running. Now we know that organization does not have all the latest and the greatest of operating systems and the applications in the environment. Many of you would also have operating system or application which is end of life, but you are still continuing with it because maybe something which is riding on top of it is dependent on that version only, or you don't have. I mean, the vendor who made that application is now he has gone out of business, and there's no way you can upgrade that. It could be multiple of reasons, but enterprise customer would definitely have some set of those kind of applications running on old operating systems or databases. We support them. How are we able to do it? Because we have been in the market for more than 25 years. So when we made the agent for example, Oracle 7, Oracle 9, that agent is still available as well. So if you have an application running in Oracle 9, we can also help you protect that. There could be some caveats around it, but rest assured we have it. So that is our legacy. That is the powerhouse, what we carry along with the legacy one. A customer would be having a multiple of security investments in your data center, right? You could be having multiple things, right? It can't be one single vendor. You could be having a Splunk, you could be having a Darktrace, Palo Alto, SIM, you could be having so from somebody else. So we also have integration with the multitude of these security investments. So what it means is whenever the Commvault identifies any potential malware, it also flags it up and routes the data to your SIM or so. Now the security team is now also aware that there could be a potential malware in my backup copy or maybe in my live environment, which I need to go and have a look and identify, is that really a malware? Or maybe it could be something very, very straightforward. Maybe the application might have made some changes, which are backup of the usual, but somebody has to go and verify that. So if you want to bring up your resilience, okay, well, what's a blueprint? Blueprint is pretty simple. Like Kundu mentioned over there, a zero trust architecture, right? That's where we start with. So what with the zero trust we mean? We trust no one. The access is granted explicitly. Okay, there's no implicit. Nobody is trusted. When you want anybody to be given access, at that point of time, you're given access. So it could be just-in-time access, or you could provide an access which can go on for a certain amount of time, or maybe till the user is in there in the Active Directory, right? Depending on how you want to configure that. Excuse me. Then the multi-factor authentication, multi-person authentication. So what is multi-person authentication? For example, if you have a job in, you want to delete a data, from your backup copy, or maybe you want to do a recovery. Now, you know that there are certain critical applications which you won't want to recover out of place for whatever reason. If anybody is trying to recover that critical data in out of place, there would be an workflow which will kick in, and it'll send an email or an alert to the second person identified in the multi-person authentication. Now, the second person would also need to agree on it, on the system. Once he agrees, then only that recovery will proceed. So this is like there are two hands, and till the time they are both working in consonance and both of them say yes, you would not proceed further with that action. Data security posture management, right? So again, Tanmay Kundu mentioned about that data assessment. If I look at what the breakup of unstructured data and structured data in a data center, the mix would be around 70-30, right? 70% would be unstructured data, 30% would be structured data, which is lying in your databases. If you want to find anything in your databases, how do you do it? You run a simple SQL query. You're able to find that information, correct? So finding all the PII information, finding all the sensitive information, it's very, very easy. You just need to go run a query and it'll tell you where all the data is stored in your database. What do you do with unstructured? You got a multitude of Excel files, Word documents, PDF, PPTs, right? Lying all around in your data center. And that's a huge chunk. How do you find the PII information in that? That's where the assessment comes in. The assessment also helps you know that the files which are there, what kind of access are those on those files. Many times when users join an organization, they create data. And when they leave the organization, their name is simply removed from the AD. Once you remove the name from the AD, the files become orphan files. Once they're orphan, that means any user can go in, open the file, have a look at it, and do whatever he wants. Right? So that's like you are opening a door in your house for your robbers to come in and do whatever. So for you to even take care finding those kind of data in your environment, you need to do the assessment, find out which is really critical on them. Government of India now is coming out with Digital Personal Data Protection Bill 2023, which has been ratified with both the governments. It's only that the government hasn't put that into play. But after elections are over, they're very seriously is looking at this coming as a bill, and everybody, all the users being asked to mandate to it. What does this bill says? This is very, very similar to GDPR. Again, what Tanmay was talking about over there. First thing is, if you don't know about your data, you'll never be able to know where all the PII information is lying. Okay. Once you find out where the PII information is lying, then you need to make sure it is in a location which is secure, everybody doesn't have access. Early warning systems. So even before somebody tries to attack, come inside, and deposit his content, and then flies away, we should be able to detect. So these early warnings are nothing but you deploy something called decoys. So these decoys are just sitting aside. They are mimicking your crown jewels. For example, in your case, let's say it's an Oracle CRM database. So it'll mimic your Oracle CRM database. Now, anybody who is trying to get in from outside, he pings on these IP. The application will log all the information, who is coming in, from what IP is coming in, what is it trying to do? He log all that information, give it back to your, again, SIM source or to a security IQ dashboard in a Commvault. And then depending basis that, you can take the next step. The good thing is there are no false positives. Anybody who pings any of the decoys, that means we need to look into it, find out what is happening over here. There are no false positives. Anomaly detection. Even if you, let's say, the malware has come inside and it is trying to encrypt your data. Now, the anomaly detection is a part of the Commvault agent which gets installed for doing the backup. That what it does is it creates a baseline of a normal IO pattern on a client. And when it sees the IO pattern is going outside the limits, for example, your malware payload is trying to encrypt the content of a server. So when it is encrypting the content of a server, there would be high IO load. Okay, there'll be a huge amount of read and writes happening over there. So when the read and writes are much more than the baseline which has been set by or seen by the Commvault agent, it'll again trigger an alert and send it to the admin or whoso is the identified person. So at least it lets the security team or the admin knows that something is happening. I need to go and have a look at it, right? With the AI, now what is happening is the people who are creating the scripts for getting inside are also becoming very, very intelligent. And they are now creating a lot of polymorphic attacks. So signature-based scans work to an extent, but now many of the attacks which are happening is they have a scan, they have a signature, sorry, they attack, and during the attack, they also change themselves. They polymorph also to a different, and they get a different signatures. Now, the signature-based scan might not be able to find out the new ones which got created in your environment. So there were very high likelihood if they are not using something to help you find out for the polymorphic attack, there was very high likelihood that those malwares would go unnoticed and proliferate in your environment. It is very critical that whatever the backup copies you make, one copy is always put in an air gap and an immutable copy. Why? Nowadays, what is happening is whenever there is a cyber attack, the guys first go and find out where all the backups are kept. Okay, so that means your DC and your DR. It goes and makes sure that the backup becomes useless. So it will encrypt your data on a backup first, and then come back and look at the production of the live data, exfiltrate the data, and then start encrypting the data on the live systems. The moment my backup's encrypted, and then I get to know I have got, I'm a part of a cyber attack. So whatever the money now they ask for getting the keys, there's no way you can deny them. Because no backups are not there, there's no way for you to do a recovery. So the best chance for you is to give money and hope and pray that the keys, whatever they'll give, you'll be able to restore your data. There's always a likelihood that it might give a data which you're not able to restore, right? So that is very much possible. Keeping a copy in an immutable storage makes sure that even if you have a cyber attack happening in an environment, the backup copy still remains intact. Nobody is able to encrypt that copy. Like I said before, we have got security integrations with different security tools running in your environment. So whatever the data or the alerts which are being generated by the Commvault agents, those alerts are also being sent to your SIM store. We can also take in alerts from areas, for example, a dark trace. If dark trace identifies that this file is encrypted, but which has not been labeled as malware by Commvault. So it can send that information to Commvault, and Commvault can again flag that file as a malware infected file. So when you do a recovery of the volume, that particular file would not be recovered. And in the console, it will show us the malware identified by dark trace. So this is the level of integration what we have with security vendors. Now we have also come out with a new offerings called a clean room, because if a customer gets attacked, a clean room basically provides a customer with a service which allows them to do their recovery of their readiness multiple times, right? We all say that I got a DR, I do my DR drill and I'm fine with that. But DR drill and the cyber recovery is very, very different. When you have a cyber attack, you can rest assured if your DC is encrypted, the DR is also encrypted because DC and DR are connected to each other, right? So that person who is here would also have gone to DR side and encrypted the data over there. You can rest assured that it's encrypted. So your data would not work in that case. So how do you do a recovery? And where do you get a space which is clean where you do a recovery? Or maybe you test what files are fine, then I can go and have a look at my backup data and restore that, right? And the third part is if you have been infected, you want to do a forensic analysis. Now, those files is not something which you would be restoring in your normal environment because you don't know how it might spread. Excuse me. So you would want to do it in a very secure environment, which could be one of the use case for doing it in a clean room. NIST has got a cybersecurity framework, and these are the 5 pillars of it: identify, protect, detect, respond, and recovery. And we also adhere to all these 5 pillars. Now, we have got a lot of features in a Commvault which applies to all these pillars in the other way. So we have a slide where we will talk about it. This is something what we created from the information in the NIST cyber security framework plus MITRE's cyber recovery framework. Okay, so here we have broken up the system into 3 main pillars: risk, readiness, and recovery. So risk is nothing but identifying the important information or the data you have in your environment and finding out which is critical, and if all the access controls, right access controls are on that data or not. With the DPDP, again, this will become very, very important, and also finding out where you have your PII. This also helps you in the compliance piece. For example, in the compliance says I should be keeping data only for 3 years. If you're keeping a data for which is more than 3 years old, that means you're out of compliance. Okay, so this also helps you take care of that. Second is early warning. So early warning is nothing but what we spoke about, deploying decoys which will make your ground jewels. So when the bad actor is trying to come in, find out more about your environment, the chances or the probability of him hitting these decoys are very high. Once they hit the decoys, all the information about them is captured, sent to a SIM or so, or to a security IQ dashboard. And basis that, you can then formulate your next response. So you can also create a SOP basis that. So it provides you active defense before a bad actor getting in your environment and deploying his payload. Next is the recovery readiness. So what we do is that if the data, whatever we have backed up, okay, how reliable it is, and how am I confident that I would be able to recover this data? It could be I do a recovery and suddenly I find that it already has got the malware in it. So just to give you some information, the average day for which a malware remain inside a customer data center is 200 plus days. Okay, so that means in those 200 days, he has spread laterally, he has east to west movement, he has done everything, he has gone everywhere, he has collected all the information. So you can rest assured that if you find a malware in your environment, this is not the first time, or maybe he's not been there for a couple of days or a week or so. He has been there for a long time. So assume the worst and try to find out now, how do I do a recovery? So it could be when I do a recovery of a data which is more than 1 week old, I might have malware inside that. So we have something called a threat scan where we can take a backup copy, go through that backup copy and identify if it is malware infected or not. If the files are malware infected, it will flag that. And when you do a recovery, the files are not flagged. Or you can again go back to an earlier date and try to find out a copy which is 100% clean and try to then recover from it. So knowing where to recover from is also very, very important, right? Forensic analysis. The clean room allows you, like I said, to do a recovery readiness exercise as many times as you want to do it. So if you want to do it, let's say you want to test your service every month. So your CISO can go to a board and tell them, we have done our cyber resiliency and cyber recovery. And we know that if tomorrow something bad happens, the worst case scenario it will take me to get up is, let's say, 24 hours or 48 hours. And these are the 10 different applications which I'll start with, and then maybe the other set of applications having higher SLAs, and depending on how critical they are. This confidence of going back to a board and giving them these numbers can only come once you do a cyber recovery multiple times. Please remember, when you start doing a cyber recovery assessment or cyber recovery exercise, first 2-3 times, you'll never be able to complete that. Why is that? For the simple reason, when you're doing the exercise, you'll find 100 things are failing. There'll be 10 of things not working, tens of things not recovering right, okay? And you might then suddenly have found out, okay, there is a dependency on some other app which I never thought about or I was not aware. I also need to take it as a part of that whole critical application data set. I also need to bring it as a part of recovery piece. So first 2 times you'll never be 100% success. It's only after you've done it multiple of times you'll come to a stage where you will say whether guarantee. Now my SOPs are formalized. I would be able to recover how much time I'm going to take. This is the time I'm going to take for this set of applications. When you're doing a recovery, recovery would not be of 1 terabyte. It will not be of 2 terabytes, right? It will be of multiple of terabytes. For a big organization, it could be as high as hundreds of terabytes. Your critical application set might span hundreds of terabytes. When you do a recovery, when you are recovering hundreds of terabytes of data, it requires the recovery infra also needs to be of that scale. You need to require multiple proxies. You need to require multiple clients on which you'll do a recovery. So Commvault helps in that in the cloud burst recovery, where what we do is automatically looking at the data set which is getting recovered, okay, or the backup jobs which are getting fired, or restore jobs which are getting fired. Automatically, we will spin up those proxies which are required to help a customer recover much, much faster. Right? He does not need to do anything. All of it is automated. So what it gives to our customer is that when I'm doing a recovery of multiple applications all in parallel, I would be able to do it at a much faster rate. Now, since all of these are getting spun up only when the requirement comes in, I don't need to provision and put them in the systems, because that will be added cost to me. And by the way, all of this is happening in a cloud. This is not an on-prem, because on-prem you need to buy all the hardware and keep it aside. There's no way you can get out of it. So at the end, coming back to the cycle, what we spoke about, there are a lot of AI and ML which is already built into a Commvault system. And if you look at on the risk side, we are doing a data classification when we're doing a dark room data assessment. It is context sensitive, okay, and it also goes inside the file and helps you find out a text, okay. Then we have a thread scan, which allows you to predict how much if any of your backup copy also has any kind of threats inside it, malware inside it. So when you're doing a recovery, you need to be quite sure that the copy is fine. Anomaly detection, finding out if there are any anomalies which are happening on the client side. Okay, if there are any canary files, we can also install canary files which are nothing but honeypots, somewhere very similar to honeypots. So when the encryption starts or the malware tries to encrypt data, any of these canary or the honeypot files get encrypted, again it raises an alert. Somebody needs to go and have a look at the client because the files are getting occupied. So with the clean room and the cloud burst, we provide the customer the ability to come back up to the last point as soon as possible in the fastest scale. Since this is all automated, there's nobody, because at the time when you're doing a recovery, I'm sure there'll be hundreds of things which would need to be done, and the whole team would be busy in all these hundreds of different things. So as much as the load which can be taken away from the team, okay, the data center team for coming up, it'll make their life much more easier. And the automation also helps make sure that the systems are set in the right way. And when the systems are running, the automation has to make sure that they are following all the SOPs which you had laid down before. In place, if it's a human, there are chances he might miss some steps. He might forget about things which needed to be done, in the intermediate, or he might need to open his own SOP standard procedure, go through it step by step and look at it, which again would lead to huge time. So coming in all, putting it all in a nutshell in a single slide. So what do we have is Commvault has a data plane separation. My control plane and the data plane are separate. So even if I have anything happening in my control plane, I'm able to bring up my control plane separately. It does not affect my data plane. Data plane goes down for whatever reason, I'm able to bring it up separately. It doesn't affect my control plane. We secure any data, whatever is there in the market. Okay. We have been doing it for a long time. We have got the broadest coverage of all the operating system databases and applications. Any portability. That means I can take a backup from any hypervisor and I can replicate it to any of their cloud. I can take it from any of the cloud and also bring it back to some of the hypervisors. Okay, like a VMware, AHV, Hyper-V. These are the common ones. I'm doing it at the VM level. I am not doing it at the data level. Data level backup and restore is very, very simple. But I take a VMware VM backup, replicate to AWS or Azure, and spin it up as a VM in its own format. So that format conversion is done all by Commvault. Risk remediation by automatically scanning the backup copies and making sure there's no malware content inside it when I'm doing a restore. Early warning by deploy the device for all my crown jewels, and the clean room recovery, which allows you to do your cyber recovery resiliency test as many and multiple times you want to do it, and make sure that your cyber resiliency is foolproof for you. These are some of the different security vendors we integrate with. Okay, so they are in different. So I identify access management, SIM/SOAR, vulnerability risk, then EDRs, XDRs. For the data deception, we acquired a company called Trapex. Now it's being made a part of a Commvault only, and we sell it as a threat piece. So Commvault also now acquired a company called Appranix. Appranix basically allows you to do a rebuild. This only works in a cloud right now. So basically, what happens is when it takes a backup of your any application in a cloud. Okay, let's say Azure. It'll rebuild all the dependency on that application. Okay, where load balancers it goes out to. What are the network gateway assigned to it? What VPN is it a part of? So when I do a recovery, all this information is also captured and recovered from it. So everything gets built along with that application, that whatever is required to bring it up. So when I have tens of different VMs, there could be hundreds of different entities which I need to protect and do a recovery from to make it very, very seamless. And we have had customers where they had around like 5,000 VM, and then when they failed over to the other region, they couldn't access the first region for whatever reason. They were able to do it in 10 minutes. 5,000 VMs getting restored with all dependencies in 10 minutes. So with that, I come to an end to my presentation. I can see I have overshot my mark. So Jitender, I'm all yours.
No, thank you very much, Arvinderjit ji. It was, great presentation. I'm sure there would be more, a lot of more information that you would like to share, but in the interest of time, we have got few questions probably before we wrap up.
Sure.
We have few questions from our audience. Tanmay, if you are here, probably you can also share your opinion. Mr. Kunal Thakur has mentioned that it would be great to have some more insights on data protection at endpoint devices and trends related to that. And
Okay.
if there are some strategies to beef up your enterprise security in that direction. So Tanmay, if you are there, if you would like to share your input.
Thanks, Jatinder. Yes, I can I can help with some of the pointers from my own experience, right? So when it comes to data protection at endpoints, right? So we need to look into several aspects. Again, I have already touched based on those aspects during my session. So the first thing is I will again come back to your zero trust architecture, right? So when it comes to the endpoint, we need to ensure that we always put a check and balance in place. We need to have robust zero trust model that helps us to put a strict access control, that helps us to ensure that the user is continually authenticated, right? All these things help us to avoid any kind of data breaches, right? Zero trust should also be configured in such a way that it only works on the principle of least privilege, right? So the least privilege policy has to be into place. So this is one of the things. Then you need to have some solutions around endpoint detection and response. So with time, these solutions have evolved. You have now got AI powered APDR solutions that helps you to analyze data across your user database and try to find the patterns, the anomalies. They also help into the early detection, right?
Sure.
By analyzing the behavior, the kind of data and users are accessing or sharing or transferring, right? You can also have DLP solutions in place. DLP has been in place for a long time, but still it is a very effective way in order to understand the flow of the data. You can have it onto your internal perimeter, you can have onto your external perimeter, inbound, outbound, the way it works best for your industry, right?
Sure.
One of the last point that I would like to touch base is mobile device security. Very important, because 99% of our workforce, especially post COVID, we are using our organization resources onto our mobile applications, right? So many organizations have come up with mobile applications. They give VPNs access to your personal devices, right? So we need to have a mobile device security policy in place. We have got good mobile device management softwares, MDMs, right? Some of them are AI driven, right? So you can again evaluate based on your requirement. Okay.
Sure. Thanks, Tanmay. Arvinderjit ji, before we wrap up, your thoughts, and also I think this question from Ramesh Yadav ji is for you. If we take secondary copy on tape, is still immutable backup copy is needed or not? Arvinderji, are you there?
Sorry. So what Mr. Yadav is saying is quite correct. The secondary copy on a tape is immutable copy, but there are a couple of things which you need to take care of if you're doing a backup on a tape. So first is my backup on tape will, if I got a malware infected copies, my backup on tape will also contain that. Now, the feature of running a thread scan on a backup copy is something which I'll not be able to do on a tape copy, which I put on a tape. Okay, if it's on a disk, we can do it because it's fast. On a tape, not possible. Second, reliability of your tape again is a big concern. If you want to retain a data for long amount of time, reliability again is a problem. And if you got a data set and one of the tape goes bad, you again have a huge issue in recovering the whole data set. So these are the two main things. Otherwise, if your data set is very small, fits into a single tape or so, you can do it. But not for a big data set. I won't recommend that.
Sure. Thank you very much, Arvinderjit ji, and thank you very much, Tanmay, for sharing your great insights and knowledge. I'm sure the panelists, the knowledge exchange driven by our panelists today would be meaningful to our audience. We look forward to having your feedback. And we look forward to hosting you again in another CIO Gurukul webinar. The audience, all our participants are requested to kindly fill the link to share your valuable feedback in today's webinar. Arvinderjit ji, there are some participants who have requested for the PPT. I hope if that's not an issue, we would be happy to share that.
I'll share that PPT with you, so then you can forward it to all
Yeah.
participants. Yes.
Thank you very much, everyone. It was lovely hosting you. We look forward to another session of CIO Gurukul next Tuesday. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for
everyone.
having me. Bye-bye.